Mr. President.
I recognize the senator from Idaho.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to speak in opposition to the resolution. Senator Kaine and his fellow co-sponsors want a strong trade relationship with Canada. So do I. I consider, like President Reagan, Canadians to be not just friends and neighbors and allies, but kin, who together with us have built the most productive relationship between any two countries in the world today. By the way, I would note that the tariffs that President Trump announced today did not get applied to Canada. What we're talking about here today, however, in Senator Kaine's resolution, is not about our trading relationship. It is about the emergency stemming from fentanyl and illegal immigration. Senator Kaine and the other co-sponsors are challenging the how, meaning the means of what President Trump is doing, the threat of tariffs, through which President Trump addresses a national emergency. The Senate, however, is set up to vote on this proposal, however, today, on the why, whether an emergency exists. Under President Biden's watch, the number of people arrested on the northern border rose more than tenfold from 2022 to 2024. Indeed, publications like The Economist and the New York Times, documented here, showed extensively how the northern border has become increasingly insecure over the last year, with a massive spike in the number of migrant crossings. Just look at the spike on the chart. This is the New York Times reporting. And what do they say? Illegal migrant crossings skyrocketed 50-fold under the Biden-Harris administration at the northern border. That includes New York. Indeed, we have a crisis at the northern border. It is a fentanyl crisis and a migration crisis. In considering these figures, I want to emphasize, I don't blame Canada. I blame President Biden. President Biden repeatedly refused to prioritize border security. Indeed, when President Biden's nominee for the Commissioner of Customs and Border Protection came through the Finance Committee, I asked him if he would at least admit that there was a border emergency, including on the southern border as well as the northern border. He, like President Biden himself, refused to take it seriously, with dire consequences for our communities in America. When President Biden and Prime Minister Trudeau met last year, the Biden administration's top priorities included encouraging both countries to increase climate spending and advance diversity and inclusion. But when it came to common priorities that Americans actually wanted to see progress on, like combating illegal immigration, President Biden's view was that we should both, Canada and the United States, should both expand pathways to allow more migrants into the country and to promote Canada accepting 15,000 migrants. President Trump is right to change this trajectory, precisely because Canadians also are victims of illegal immigration and fentanyl. We must both prioritize these threats to our citizens. To sum it up, when my colleagues and I meet constituents who suffered at the hands of criminal elements which crossed illegally into the United States or from smuggled fentanyl, we do not consider them to be any more or less a victim depending on which border their harm illegally crossed. We say the most important thing is that this crisis must stop. Under President Trump, it is stopping. Accordingly, I encourage my colleagues to vote no on the resolution.
Mr. President.
I recognize the senator from Virginia.